More disturbing revelations from this family that held captive the 13 children. Alex Stone's been following this story all week. Good morning, Alex Stone.
McGraw, good morning. Yeah, the abuse was far worse than anyone imagined. The children, we now know, according to prosecutors, they were chained up for weeks and months at a time as punishment. And it could be punishment for something as simple as washing their hands above their wrists, that the parents saw that as playing in the water. And then they would get chained up for a couple of months. They were not unchained to use the bathroom. They were given very little to no food. They were only allowed to shower once per year, according to prosecutors. And they had almost no education. That the kids didn't know what a police officer was. They didn't know what medication was. Plus, the Turpins are accused of buying copious amounts of food. They had plenty of money buying all this food and then putting it just out of reach of the kids. They liked to buy apple and pumpkin pies and putting it just where the kids in their chains couldn't get to it, and then they would eat it all in front of them. And I got to tell you, from being in court yesterday, David Turpin, he's been eating plenty. He's overweight. He's got a big belly on him compared to his 29-year-old daughter, who right now is 82 pounds. Their 12-year-old is the size of a 7-year-old. Prosecutors say the kids have muscle wasting. They've lost almost all of their muscle mass, that they're in pretty serious shape.
Mentally, I've heard that there's some permanent damage, too, as well.
Well, it definitely seems like that there may be. For the kids, this is the environment that they have lived in their entire lives, that they have dealt with strangulation, of beatings, of no education, that, in many of these cases when we cover, unfortunately, child torture, that it's been J.C. Dugard and others who were free at one time and had a normal life at one time. So they have something to go back to, that there is a base there of a normal life that they can learn from, and they were educated in their early years. These kids have no base of anything that is normal. The family is nocturnal. They would sleep all day, and they were up all night long. Interesting, though, that the charges are only against 12, involving 12 of the kids for torture and everything else. They don't believe they tortured the 2-year-old, and prosecutors don't know why, but they say the 2-year-old could eat whatever he wanted, could go wherever he wanted inside the house, while the other kids were locked up and going to the bathroom right where they were locked up for months at a time.
What's interesting is the one child who was able to get away, and even though they didn't understand what police officers were able to call 911?
Yeah, the 17-year-old apparently knew or figured out how to get help. She had been planning the escape, they believe, for 2 years. This was something that they had put together. She had been working with a younger sibling. When they escaped out of the window, the younger sibling got scared and went back in. But the 17-year-old said, no, we're doing this, and kept running, and then dialed 911, somehow knew what to do. There was one older child, a son of theirs, who was attending a class at a community college. Louise Turpin would go with him, a night class, and sit outside the classroom, apparently to make sure he didn't interact with anybody and he didn't go anywhere, and then would bring him back home. So he had some education, but that's the only child they believe that was getting out to get any education.
Alex Stone, this is some of the most horrific things we've ever heard. Clearly, the parents they're evil, but they must have some mental problems to do this.
Well, it would seem that way. They're pleading not guilty right now. We asked her attorney, the public defender who's defending her, if they're going to go not guilty by reason of insanity. He said that's something they're going to have to look at. These charges were just filed yesterday. They were entering a quick plea. They can change their plea at some point, go not guilty by reason of insanity. But the parents, as of right now, are pleading not guilty. He looked somewhat dazed in court yesterday. She did not. She looked like she was completely with it the whole time. But we'll have to see which way they go.
And what happens to the children now?
Well, they're in hospitals right now. They've got a long road ahead of them physically because they're so malnourished and it's been going on for so long. But long-term, Child Protective Services would like to get them into adoptive homes, assuming that David and Louise Turpin don't get them back, that they are convicted on these counts. But the very long-term goal would be to get them in. The adult children, 7 of them are adults. They will be evaluated at some point by Child Protective Services. If it's believed that they cannot take care of themselves, then CPS will take control of them as well. And there's a real good chance that they are so far behind that they're like children that Child Protective Services will have to take some involvement in their lives.
Alex Stone, thanks for checking in. Have a good day.